My parents both, and especially my dad, they just instilled the necessity of working hard no matter what you do, in your career. It doesn't matter if you're, a doctor or you work at, Chick-fil-A, you work hard as you can and do the best you can, and, and have that good work ethic. Watch film, study the opposition's offense, defense, know your plays, know which route you're running, that stuff. They stress the mental aspect of it, very highly. So, if you didn't know the mental side of it, you weren't even going to get a chance to, partake in the physical aspect of it. It just doesn't, it doesn't translate, and that's true to this day, no matter who's playing the game. I mean, if you don't know the plays, if you don't know what you're doing, then you don't belong out there,
We're back with one more down. Today we have number 24, Dr. Dominic Conti, wide receiver, defensive back, Chaney High, class of 1994. Dr. Conti was one of my teammates through the 90, 91, and 92 season. He was a position mate of mine, playing the same positions, wide receiver and defensive back during our time under Ron Berdis. We had the pleasure of winning 2 city championships together and being on the first teams to ever compete in the OHSAA playoffs in football for Chaney High School. It's a pleasure to get the chance to spend a little time with Dom today and catch up, just see how life is treating him, and then to reminisce and get a full picture of who he is as a person and as a man, and then also to look back at his experience playing for Ron Berdis and the Chaney Cowboys. Thank you for coming on today, Dom. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
I think the honor is mine. It's just tremendous for me to see all that you've accomplished, and you're still the same uh, pleasant guy that I remember, 30 something years ago. Nothing's changed, maybe a little bit of powdered donut residue on both of our chins, but
Yeah.
you know,
Wide receiver now either. I'd be on the line.
so to kind of start us off, I like for you to, give me some insight into your family dynamic and tell us about your tremendous parents and your siblings.
Okay. Yeah. So grew up with 3 older sisters. Lived on the west side. My parents are still both alive, both doing well. 3 sisters, 2 of which live in town. One lives in Pennsylvania, but we get to see her occasionally. Been married, going on 23 years this May. My wife, Renee, also a Chaney graduate. She graduated 1 year after I did. And you graduated with her sister, Sherry. She graduated your class. Maiden name was Ritzak. So good family, great in-laws as well. Renee and I we have 2 sons. Our oldest, Steven, is 21. He's a student at OU. And our youngest son, Ryan, is a freshman at YSU.
It's just great to hear that everyone is doing well. Remember, your mom was an employee at our school, and she always did her job to the best her abilities and was always very receiving. If you were out of place, she put you right back in place. But I can say that me personally, she always showed a lot of love and treated us all so very kindly. And I always appreciated, her professionalism as we had interactions coming in and out of the office, asking her for different things.
Yeah. And that's, continues to this day. It was a blessing and a curse to have my mom at the school. I knew I couldn't screw up too bad. There was always the threat of, do I need to go get your mother? I was getting out of line. So.
Luckily for me, my mom got into the school system long after I had left out of it, so I didn't have those anxiety attacks. Now, your dad, he was also always around as well. Could catch him out in front of the fire station, and he was very active in the Chaney Cowboys Booster Club.
Yep.
When you think about who your mom and dad is in relationship to you and your sisters, give me some background on what the Conti household was like growing up there on the west side.
We still are very close, we had, we made it a point. We always had dinner together every night, even when my dad was working, he was a fireman. As he, progressed through his career, he was a battalion chief in Youngstown. So he had a little bit of freedom. He would be able to come home during his shift, for a little bit. So he'd have, dinner with us. But that was our bonding time. That was our, time to, just sit, break bread, and, how was your day, this and that. And even to this day, we still try to get together. Most weekends, we still have Sunday pasta at my mom and dad's house. And, can't make it every weekend, but, if you can make it, and it's nice to still, hold that tradition. And, when my kids are around, we always try to go. Sometimes I have nieces and nephews, they go to school out of town. So sometimes they come into town. It's good to see them. It's an opportunity to get together, because everybody's just so busy during the week. And, that's a good time to try to get together. But that was always important growing up. was having that, that time together and making the time for each other. And, I think that's important,
With your dad taking on a career and occupation that can be life-threatening, and then your mom being steadfast and doing her job day in and day out, what type of impact does that have from your perspective and your point of view on a young man's development growing up, seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if I really comprehended that aspect of his job, as far as, oh my God, he could, go to work and not come home one day. I mean, I don't know if as a kid, if I ever really fully grasped that until I, became an adult, and read more about, these, tragedies that can happen and that sort of thing, but as a child, I think, I don't know, maybe I was just naive or just, just ignorant to it, but I mean, the one thing my parents both, and especially my dad, they just instilled the necessity of working hard no matter what you do, in your career. It doesn't matter if you're, a doctor or you work at, Chick-fil-A, you work as hard as you can and do the best you can, and, and have that good work ethic.
Now, that willingness to sacrifice and be of service to others in times of great peril, is that aligned with who your dad is at his core, in your opinion, from the things that you've seen him do in your lifetime?
Yeah, I mean, my dad has always, sacrificed for us, for others, so that's always been something that I know to be true. And I think it's just something that you're just maybe built into people, and, they just comes naturally. It's just inborn into their personality, but yeah.
And then out of the two of those, your mom and your dad, who was the enforcer out of those two?
Both, I mean, at different times, so there was always the bigger threat with my dad, but mom was definitely the enforcer, because she was the one that was always home. If dad was, like I said, if he'd be working on duty, he'd be gone for 24 hours at a time. So, mom had to be the enforcer, and she did a good job. She could lay down the law and instill fear if she had to.
Now, as you are coming up as a young man on the West Side, were you aware of the whole Chaney environment and what it meant to be a cowboy, or is that something that you kind of had to grow into and get accustomed to as you entered into the school?
No, I mean, I kind of knew. I had three older sisters, so my oldest sister Michelle went to Chaney, graduated 89, and then my sister Dina graduated 91, and my sister Danielle graduated 92. So, when I was even in grade school, and that, they were, in high school, and so you kind of got that, that sense. My oldest sister was on the dance line, so we'd go to football games, and so you start to grasp that culture, even at a younger age. But it made that transition for me easier. Like we talked the other day, I went to Catholic grade school up through 8th grade, and it was a very small school. So that transition from that to Chaney, where, you have 250 kids in your class, and public school, it was, it made that transition a little easier, having my sisters kind of go through ahead of me.
And then, in experiencing, school life and game atmosphere prior to coming into the school, are there any guys that you think back and remember kind of watching ahead of your time there and kind of being inspired by?
Yeah, definitely. Probably the earliest one that I probably would have known that went to school with my sister was a running back named Tyrone Reynolds. And I just remember him, being just lightning in a bottle, so he was one of the first players that I was like, wow, this guy's good. And then you had other guys that followed him, Mac, Gilchrist was probably the next one that was just like, this guy's special, and, so those guys early on that were ahead of me, were guys that were just, I looked up to as like, really good players, and, try to emulate or, try to be as good as them.
Now, for you, you were a multi-sport athlete during our time in high school, tremendous baseball player, a great guy on the football field. You even put the basketball in your hand for a couple years there. Now, looking at the clips that we went through, you see a guy who's not 6 foot. You see a guy who is not 200 pounds, but when it's your time to shine in '93, I think you brought a lot of intensity and know-how and experience to that team. And you used that to your advantage and got the most out of it for a shortened season. What's your first experience with athletics and formal competition that you can remember?
Like going back to, probably middle school or junior high, playing, I played football. I went to St. Brendan's School. Our football team was a combined football team with St. Christine's. And so it was called West Catholic. So I played football there. And I also played basketball at St. Brendan's. So we had our own basketball team. So I played basketball. They had a 5th and 6th grade team, and then a 7th and 8th grade team there. And, as far as baseball goes, I played baseball from, I think I started baseball at like 7 or 8 years old, and, then played all the way up through high school.
And what was the main motivation for you in terms of athletics? What was it that drove you and kept you engaged and wanting to compete and wanting to get better and pursue that pathway for yourself?
I guess just it's something that I enjoyed doing. It was something that it didn't always come easy, but it was rewarding in the fact that, when you had a little bit of success doing something, it just kind of motivates you to want to do it more, So, baseball was something that, at a younger age, I was, had a little bit of natural ability as far as being able to catch and throw and hit a little bit, and so then, my dad was always the guy that if he was home, like, hey, do you want to go play catch? Do you want to, hit some grounders, or do you want to do that? So it kind of just kept sparking your interest there. Football, honestly, was probably not something I was really interested in until junior, 6th, 7th grade. And, I think it was more of like, my friends were doing it. Let's just go do it, and see what it's about. By that time, I was a what they call a late bloomer, so I was, puny, scrawny kid, and, was just, one of the guys that was on the team pretty much until probably my 8th grade year. I started to kind of develop a little bit more and, come into my own a little bit and, able to really more participate a little bit more at that aspect. And basketball, at St. Brendan's, our classes were really small. Pretty much, we all played basketball just because otherwise we wouldn't have a team. we wouldn't have enough kids. So, but even then, I was never an offensive player. I was, very much a defensive specialist. I was in there to kind of, try to steal the ball, and, if they needed a foul, or, I was good at passing. So, but I was definitely not a scorer at, probably like 4'8" at that point,
When I think about who you are as a person and as a teammate, you know, the one thing about you is I think you always observed and took in information, and you were always very aware of who was doing what in front of you, so that when it was your turn to get your rep, you were able to copy, do, and add your own spin to it. But I think that's what allowed you to get on the field a little bit faster than most of the guys that were in your class.
Yeah.
We really kind of enter and are caught up in football at Chaney at a special time. Things are just getting better and coming together. My last 2 years were very successful, which would have been, your second and third year.
Yeah.
When you think about some of the things that it took to just make it through and be a part of that program, what are the main pillars that stand out for you in terms of just being a Chaney football player? And then also, you couple that with you balancing between different sports and coming in and out at various times. Give me some thoughts and speak to that in terms of the makeup of the Chaney program and its principal foundations.
Well, I think, Coach Berdis and I know Coach Mick, they always stress the, mental aspect of the game, watch film, study the opposition's offense, defense, know your plays, know which route you're running, that stuff. They stress the mental aspect of it, very highly. So, if you didn't know the mental side of it, you weren't even going to get a chance to, partake in the physical aspect of it. It just doesn't translate, and that's true to this day, no matter who's playing the game. I mean, if you don't know the plays, if you don't know what you're doing, then you don't belong out there, and so I think they definitely stress that, where, if even if you weren't as talented, if you knew what you were doing, you were going to maybe get an opportunity, so just to be ready and be ready mentally and that first.
Now, from the physical preparation, we spend a lot of days in those late Junes, early Julys, just, kind of pushing yourself to the limits to just get prepared, to get ready to participate, put on pads, go against other competition. What is your perspective and your thoughts of, a previous era of two-a-days and conditioning compared to maybe what they do in modern times?
Yeah, it's funny because I joke, having two sons that went through high school football locally here at Boardman, and other friends who have kids that play at other schools. We kind of compare notes, like what are their double sessions are like. I think we had it way hard compared to what they go through today. The only thing I will say is I think they may be more efficient at doing things today. They have a lot more technology, so maybe they don't have to spend as many hours doing stuff as we did. But I don't think there's any programs locally that are spending 6, 7, 8 hours a day, doing double sessions in the summertime. I mean, it seemed like our double sessions lasted forever. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. I felt like we were there. You know,
It was a school day, really.
I felt like
7:30 to
we got
3:30.
there like, we started at 7. I felt like, and we're home by like 4. I mean, it was just a never ending day.
So, when you think about that experience and that grind, in the peak of the heat of the summer, uh, did that give you any type of edge in any of your experiences later on in life post athletics? Just pushing yourself and testing yourself. And
Oh yeah, I mean, if I get through that, I could get through anything. The amount of conditioning, to the point where guys in the middle of summer, we were running so much, guys were, throwing up, and from the heat and all that, from just the running. Yeah, it was definitely, it was like boot camp, and you think, nothing can be as hard as that, as even later in life. Well, I could do that. I made it through double sessions. I can make it through this,
I agree. I think the basis of all of that was to over prepare so that, when it comes time to game time and competition, you're not thinking about being tired. You're just thinking about the task at hand. And then, I think the other aspect of that and the other purpose of that is just to make sure that the ones that stay and commit to that are the guys that you're going to trust to put into a game and, execute. Because as we got better, we had more and more people attempt in those beginning parts of football. In the off season, the weight room would be packed. The beginning of conditioning, the field would be full of kids, but then come equipment time, we
weeded out
down to about 45 guys who just want to be there. So
it made you mentally tough too. I mean, you wouldn't crack when times got tough.
And I'm proud that I was able to, persevere through that, because, sometimes when you get out of the protection and the eyesight and the comfort of your parents, being there as a security blanket, as a young man, how do you know what you're capable of if you haven't been tested? And I think that experience gave me a lot of confidence to pursue and do other things that otherwise I might not have even tried.
Yeah.
When we talk about 1991, we're both on varsity. We finished with a 9-2 record. We have the second consecutive city title. What was that season like for you as a sophomore? Kind of getting your toes wet and getting a taste of what this thing is going to be like for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first exposure to varsity football. So, the biggest thing for me was just, soak up as much knowledge as I can, I was still kind of developing physically, and didn't have the size to necessarily compete at that time. But, you'd get a little opportunity here and there, especially, we were so good at that year that, fortunately we were up by a lot of points on a lot of teams. And so we got to get some minutes in at the end of the game. But it was more or less just a, getting that, knowledge of, the playbook, the program, how things are done, the culture, and just kind of, knowing that it's not your time now, but, be ready because your number can get called at any time. And, so, got to prepare for that and, and be ready.
And then, as we move on, 92 is my senior football season, your junior football season. You're the key swing guy, along with Dwayne Thompson, myself, Sylvester Patton, and Mark Herron, making up the secondary. And with the exception of Patton, we were the receiving core. Do you have any characterization or thought of those two different teams, 91 and then 92? If you had to script what you would consider the strengths of one team versus the other team, how would you break that down?
Yeah, the strength of the 92 team was just the experience. Most of the players there, you, Mark, Dwayne, Sylvester, Havrilla, Mager, and I could go on and on, but you guys all had a full year of, hey, we played, we had success, as juniors. And then as seniors, now it was, you had that almost kind of swag, I felt like you guys had that confidence. So that was, to me, the big difference. And the 91 team was very, very good. I thought the 92 team was fantastic, and maybe if I had to put maybe just a shade ahead, just because of that, that experience that we had, from being successful in 91 to, carrying that on and, that momentum that you had carrying it on to the next year. So.
Now, you being a native Westsider, what was that boost in pride that came from the winning, like for you, yourself, your neighborhood, and the kids in that corridor?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you looked into the stands. I mean, the stands were full of people. I mean, the community come out, to root you on, and it's winning's fun. It's it's something that it's easy to get behind. So. So that was nice. It was nice to be a part of that and have that support from the community.
Now, as we shift over to you being a senior, you're talking about a replacement of all of the receivers that had experience. You lose a two-time All-Ohio running back, first-team All-City quarterback, and then the vast majority of the offensive line, with the exception of, I think, Carl Farina.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's a lot of talent that's still there. Malcolm Gardner is still ready and relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You got Pat Grossen that was there initially. For you, being the elder statesman of your class, along with Carl Farina being a leader on your senior team, and Joe Davila as well.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that you guys aimed to do, and just really, what are your memories in that transition from the 92 team to you elevating and getting a chance to put your stamp on things your last year of high school?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that, obviously key losses were not going to be easy to replace. Our biggest, priority was we knew we were going to be young in certain positions, just try to get those kids as ready as possible, to contribute and step into those key roles, and we just got sidelined with the strike that year, and had some key injuries, and it made it difficult, because we just didn't have the depth at some of those positions that we did in the past, prior 2 seasons, so it made it more difficult, for guys to step in who had experience or who had, the skill set to perform. We tried to, between Joe Davila and myself, and, Carl was another leader. We just tried to kind of, carry on the same winning culture, that was instilled upon us for the last 3 years prior, just hard work, nose to the grind, and just kind of, out prepare your opponent, that sort of thing.
Now, you guys end up playing 8 games that year. And I know something like a strike that takes 2 games off of the schedule is a big disappointment for a guy who's waited their turn and experienced 2 straight years of playoff teams and a playoff atmosphere. But by no means was that season disappointing on the field.
No.
You guys lose a very tight one to Boardman, and you lose to Fitch. But, the rest of the city slate, Orville, and then Howland, you guys are able to go out there and really show, what that young group was made of.
Yep.
And then, you as an individual, you really made some big plays at key times throughout that season. I'd like to, get your take and hear you take us through that experience of what that 8-game slate was for you and your teammates that year.
Yeah. It was, started off a tough loss to Fitch, and Fitch was a very, very good team that year. And then obviously that's when the strike hit right after that. And, so we missed our, we were actually, I think, down for closer to 4 weeks. We were off. And then we come back and, resumed play at that point. So our season actually ended up carrying on for, I think, an extra 1 or 2 weeks after the regular season would have normally ended. We ended up playing, I think that's when we played Rayan, and then we played Wilson, those last 2 weeks, which would have been, our season would have already been over at that time. But, we played very well. It's funny because I rewatched that Boardman game just recently, and I scratched my head, like, how did we lose that game that year? If you watch the game, we dominated that game and just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. We'd have fumbles and, turnovers and, drive down the field and stall. But if you watch that game, we shut Boardman down that year. We just kind of made key mistakes, and I think it was probably just lack of the experience of gameplay that year. I think had things gone otherwise, I really feel like we could have been a 1-loss team that year, because I think we did not play Camel that year. And I'm trying to think who else we didn't play that year that we normally would have played. I know we played Niles, Howland. You mentioned Orville. But I felt like had things gone differently, we could have been a potentially a 1-loss team that year and vying for a playoff spot again, so. But such is life, I guess.
Yeah, but you know what? When I think about it, it's really a throwback to the time where there weren't playoffs and you're just playing,
Yeah.
who's put in front of you and doing the best that you can.
Yeah.
And, 6-2 is nothing to sneeze at,
No.
especially for, some of the adversity that all those city teams had to go through.
Yeah.
Asking a football team to be off for 4 weeks is really detrimental to a player's health, and you put people at risk. But, I know the type of focus and dedication that kids displayed during that period. You just want to compete, so you're going to do what you have to do to be ready. There's a change in the landscape of the city for that year because South shuts down this year before. So you have guys matriculating from South to Wilson, giving them an added boost. You have Rand getting a few guys and still doing what they do. And then you still have East. You have good players in the city, guys like Jermaine Fitzgerald, who was a 4-year starter.
Mm-hmm.
You have Sam Crenshaw over there at Rand. You have Damon Irby over there at Rand. Tremaine Smith and Torrance Gilmore and Sean Mays, they're over there at Wilson, along with Van Robinson. When you think about some of those battles, especially in league play, what were you looking forward to as a senior, trying to win that third straight city championship for yourself, and then, really 4 in a row, which hadn't been done ever at that point?
Yeah, I mean, and that was our priority. I think once we got back from the strike, our priority was, all right, we got to take care. The first priority is we got to take care of winning city, and so that became our immediate goal. And so those games were definitely marked with a little asterisk. They were extra special, extra emotional, and again, we knew with South closing the year prior, we knew that it was going to be a lot tougher to compete. Those teams were going to be even better than they were the year before. And so, we definitely did not take any of those teams lightly at all. We knew it was going to be hard hitting and, tough games, all around. Just had to focus on fundamentals, especially on the defensive side, making good tackles, keeping their offensive explosiveness to a minimum. Just don't give up a big play, and you'd be all right.
Now, I'm not going to let you slide without bringing up some of the controversy for this city title game. It's Chaney versus Wilson. You have a game at YSU late in November. You make some big plays that day. What you have to put me in that stadium. I'm off up at Edinburgh.
You're Edinburgh. That's right.
I have no way to witness this, but I've heard about this over and over throughout the years about, just how nip and tuck that game was between you two. And, you really showed up and showed out for that game. Take me back to that point for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, Wilson that year was outstanding, and they had a lot of talent. They actually jumped out ahead on us. They scored first, and I don't think either of our teams that year had a kicker, so it was always kind of go for two. So they jumped out to a 6-0 lead, and then it was kind of a back and forth game battle. Closer to the end of the first half, we had sustained a drive and, got down in the red zone. And, I think, we were running like a rollout pass. I forget which route I was even supposed to run, but I think it was like I broke it off and just kind of improvised. And, Ron Warga found me in the back of the end zone. on a little very low pass that I had to go to the turf for, and was able to pick the ball, and as I'm on the ground, so the controversy was, I guess, was it a catch or was it not a catch? And I to this day I say it was a catch, because I just know where my hands were, in relation to the ball. But that was the controversy, was it a catch or not a catch? But it was ruled a catch either way, and so we ended up tying the game going into half, and then we came out and kind of carried that momentum into the second half, and we were able to put together a couple more drives, and then I don't remember where exactly it was in the game. I want to say it was like somewhere around the end of the third quarter, maybe beginning of the fourth quarter. We scored again on a 40+ yard pass that Ron Warga hit me on a little crossing pass, and then I just was able to get to the sideline and go up the sideline and basically scored untouched. And that was the deciding, factor of the game. And then we were able to, keep them, keep their offensive, shut down the rest of that game, and hold on to that lead. And we ended up winning 12-6, that game.
So to me, that may, from an individual standpoint, that probably represents one of your greatest days in a Cowboy uniform.
Oh, definitely. I mean, 2 touchdowns. I'd say it was, and the only 2 times I scored. So, and as well as I do, we weren't a passing team by any means, especially that year,
So I'm going to ask you, that's the bright side of being a competitive athlete. What is the difficult side for you? And, what's the parts of your athletic experience in your career that may have not been so bright, or, may have been adverse for you? If you could kind of share that, what would you say that is?
Well, I think that year, especially, I got hurt right just prior to our second scrimmage that year, and basically collided with another player. Kamani Berry and I were running crossing routes. We were both receivers. We were running crossing routes, and we both kind of ran the same route, but on opposite sides of the field, and we collided. So I had an injury to my right thigh, where I was like sidelined, and I missed the Canfield scrimmage, and I missed the Fitch game. And it took me probably about 3-4 weeks to rehab back to where I was able to to play. That was the only fortunate side of the strike, was I only missed 1 game. Otherwise I would have missed probably 4 games. By the time I was able to come back and play. But that was probably the hardest thing that year, was overcoming that injury, as well as like kind of navigating through the strike, because, as I'm trying to rehab, we can't even have formal practice, because we're on strike. So, Joe DeVille and I kind of were the auxiliary coaches that year. We kind of had our own little practices and ran our plays, and of course the coaches were nowhere to be seen or heard of, but we somehow always managed to have equipment, so
I'm sure Coach Berdis would say that it came from Palco's or the Casa Loma.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But that was the challenge that year, was navigating through that, and, and then, especially for me, especially just, not only navigating the strike, but also navigating injury as well. And trying to, do my best to get me back in playing shape and, be ready for, when the season started back up again.
You a lot of success as a baseball player. Definitely went through Coach Mullally's program for 2 years playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a person that gets into competitive athletics at a young age, and then you get to go as far as you can go,
Mm-hmm.
you make the most of your high school experience. For you, was there any unwinding of your athletic identity once it was all done and over with?
I don't think so. I mean, I kind of always knew, like, high school was the end of the road for me. I had that kind of mentality early on. So I knew it would kind of end at some point anyways. I was appreciative of the time that I had, and being able to play. I felt like that was a blessing for me, is, because I did enjoy it, during that time. And, you do miss it once it's gone. But you also realize then, all right, I've got, bigger things on my plate now that I want to go after. And, I need to focus on that too, so, but, I was fortunate, between football, basketball, and baseball. I mean, I had tremendous coaches in all three sports, Coach Berdis, Coach Mullally, and Coach Popio. They all kind of had the same, mentality as far as, good, strong discipline, hard work, and they all kind of had the which benefited, I think, anybody that played for them. And you attest to that. I mean, not so much developing football players, but just developing, young men, and getting you ready for life in general. Practices were hard, but, life's hard sometimes, and, if you think this is hard, you're never going to survive in the real world, that sort of thing. So, I appreciate, all of them, and all our coaches, the assistant coaches, everybody, for, instilling that in me, especially.
You take your academic talents to Ohio State for a year, and then return home to the Youngstown State University Penguins.
Mm-hmm.
You get this degree in biology, and then decide to pursue medicine through Ohio University Medical School. What is it about the academics and, the pursuit to be your best version of yourself that drove you towards becoming a doctor?
The hard work, pushing yourself, it's it's in some extent, it's competing within yourself. I know this is a challenge, but I know I could do it, and so that was, your motivation. But, as far as, choosing to go into medicine, it's just something that I just think I was drawn to. And, and as time went on, taking, biology, chemistry, physiology, anatomy classes, it was one of those, yeah, this is really cool. I really like this stuff, I like, learning about how the body works, and, why things happen to, certain things. So that's kind of what drew me to medicine. The biggest challenge there was, getting into a medical school, and anybody who's out there that's a doctor will tell you, it's not always easy. You apply to all these schools, and, you might, get an interview or whatever at, a fraction of them, and so sometimes you could be the brightest kid, have the best grades, but the way the cards fall, you might not get in. And so, that was an obstacle that, that I was worried about, but I was also very blessed to, to do well enough and get accepted to Ohio University, after I graduated from YSU.
Now, as you're navigating that process, and it wasn't until you kind of just touched on it, I start to think, yourself, Kenyon Meadows, Tom Mager, you're all practicing physicians, and everybody comes from inner city, Youngstown city schools, public education. When you get into those wider nets and you're competing against people from different parts of the state, other parts of the country, and you're vying for those precious spots on selection day, what goes through your mind as you feel some of that anxiety, and you want to do your best, you want to land in the best possible position for yourself and elevate yourself to the top of your field? Are there any things that you pull from those younger years of making it through hard things that apply to that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's a high stressful situation, time, and you also realize there's a lot of things in life you can control and a lot of things in life you can't control, and you try not to let the things that you can't control consume you. It's easier to say that now as an old man, but as a college student, is probably a lot harder, to deal with. But I just think that things, going back through sports, things have a way of working themselves out, and I think that's kind of the mentality I took at that time, was like, things will work out at, one way or another, they'll work out for the best. And I actually, my plan B was to go to grad. If I didn't get into med school, I was going to go to grad school and probably go into teaching, which, I think there's a lot of similarities between, being a physician and being a teacher. I mean, we teach people about, about their health, about, lifestyle changes, about, what can, make their bodies better. And, there's that aspect of where it's very similar as far as trying to educate people and educate students.
As a practicing physician, what are the rewarding parts of that, doing your trade, and what is it that fulfills you and keeps you coming back year after year to service people?
Yeah, I just, I love, the situations where, you're able to, improve, somebody's quality of life in such a way where, had you not intervened, that person, might not survive, or they might have, some kind of devastating illness or something like that. So it's rewarding in that standpoint, that you can have that positive impact. But it's also rewarding for me just to be a part of the patients' lives and their families' lives. And I think I mentioned to you the other day when we talked, you almost, as a physician, become an extension of your patients' families. They look at you almost in that regard. And to me, that's rewarding, when, you can just know that, you can have that positive impact on their family, and they look forward to your advice or coming to see you. And, I live in the community where I work. So I can't go to the grocery store or anywhere without seeing, half a dozen patients. And they come up to you, hey, Dr. Conti, how you doing? Oh, there's my doctor. To me, that's rewarding, where people just, are excited to see you and look at you with that high regard. And, and it is that to me is rewarding. And I enjoy, seeing people, out and about outside of work,
I think that's a testament to, the personality that you have and the type of man that you are and that you've always been. You're a guy that there's just something about you that, this guy is going to give you his best. And, I had some of that similar experience being a teacher. There'd be times where I lived in a small town and I'd see my students in places that I didn't want to see them. And then, we get in class on Monday and they're telling me about everything that was in my cart and what color underwear that I bought, and I probably have them on. So, sometimes it's a little bit overkill, but, it just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, as you're looking at yourself in present day, you've got two fine sons that are in the midst of pursuing their academic careers and trying to get to a point of self-sufficiency. You and your wife have sustained a long marriage, and you know each other. You come from the same community, come from the same schools. Your hard work and your dedication to will yourself into being a physician, affords your boys some things that may not have been at your disposal when you were a youth. Tell me about fatherhood and being that example. And then not only that, but, getting to take that ride with your sons through the same journey that you went through with one of your coaches.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, fatherhood, as you know from your own experience, it's tough at times. It challenges you. I'm able to, my kids are in a different position than I was, when I was their age, growing up rather. But I think, sports in general, youth sports, especially in general, is not the same as when you and I were at that age, when I played Little League baseball, you had community bats, community helmets, you basically showed up with a glove and that was it. Now it's like, I got to have, my own bat. I got to have my own helmet. I got to have my own bag, and so that's a challenge, but, we worked through, and, I was obviously, fortunate enough to be able to, provide that stuff for my kids as they were, when they were young and going through youth sports and that, I was very involved with them when they were in youth sports, as far as, I helped coach the baseball team, and get involved in, the baseball league itself, if they needed help, fundraisers, that sort of thing. That was a lot of work, and that gave me a newfound respect for what our parents did, when we were young, because as kids, you don't realize what's going on behind the scenes, all the hard work that the parents do to, to make things run smoothly and to make sure, the kids have what they need to have and that sort of thing. And that carries on through high school, with, team feeds and with, fundraisers for the sports and that sort of thing. As a kid, I think you just don't appreciate it enough. And then as a parent now, you appreciate it because you're going through it and, you're busting your butt, trying to help out and trying to make sure that not just your kids, but now, the 50 other kids on the football team, have something to eat, on Thursday nights before the game. And, or, if you have an away game, making sure they have, something to eat before they get on the bus. that sort of thing. So that's challenging. As far as my own boys, it's been a pleasure just, watching them both have success, throughout, sports from, youth on up through high school, having good careers, playing, multiple sports as well. My oldest son, Steven, he, carried on after me in the fact that he was a defensive back and a wide receiver throughout high school. And he also was an outfielder in baseball. So he kind of played all my positions, way better than I did, by the way. I will say that. But the other interesting thing is, and we talked the other day, is he also got to experience being coached by my coach, Coach Popio, in both football and in baseball. And that was a treat for me, because, he got to experience that. And also it gave me a chance to reconnect with Coach Pope, those couple of years. And I, really, really, admired him. And that was a treat for me, to kind of reconnect with him again. And his son, Mikey, who, I remember as the, kid with the jersey on so big that it was dragging across the ground, carrying the footballs, out on practice. And now he's, one of the, main assistant coaches in football at Boardman, so that was, also a treat, but made you feel really old.
Yeah, just hearing the fact that the young Michael Popio got old enough to coach somebody I know's son, because just like you mentioned, I do remember him and Anthony being around at games, and kids running around and being in the corner of the end zone. They could always get past the restriction line at the 20, and they'd be right down there in the corner celebrating with whoever scored or made a big play. The theme of our show is one more down. And, we always kind of end with that philosophic thought of, if you had that one more down to repeat for yourself, it could be in the realm of athletics. It could be in the realm of family life or work life, or it could just be a scenario that you come up with. If you're thinking about a young 24, 5'9", 160 pounds.
Is that what the stats said?
Yeah, 5'9" wide receiver.
They got the 9 upside down.
For you, what would that one more down be for Dr. Conti?
Oh, geez. Let me see. Wasn't prepared for that question. I don't know. I mean, I was content with, how my athletic career ended. So, I mean, I don't know if, I would change anything there. And certainly, from an academic standpoint and family standpoint, I mean, I'm, blessed to be where I'm at, right now. And so I honestly don't know if I would do anything different. I mean, I think, or if I would redo anything, I think those experiences, give you the character and everything that you are. And, I don't know. I'd have to ponder that some more.
had a teammate that kind of touched on some of the sentiments of what you had said. He said that if you change one thing to get to something else, it might have you sacrifice something that was very special to you. So I can understand, not wanting to change an experience that has been good for you. If it's not broke, you don't need to fix it. I was sharing my sentiments that, you as a teammate and a classmate, you were always a grounded guy and a very pleasant guy to be around. For us as upperclassmen, and, I'm speaking more so for myself, but on behalf of Patton, on behalf of Heron and Dwayne Thompson, you were the guy that we could always trust that if it was your chance to come in or your time to get some experience, we never had an issue with it because we knew that you were prepared and you were going to do your best and be committed to the task at hand. You were always in there and willing to do whatever it took to win. To watch you get to have your own time and your own shine as a senior and, be recognized as an all-city player and continue that tradition and not letting the program backslide. I think that's as big a thing as a teammate that you could hope for when you leave the program to the class behind you, is that they continue what you started. Getting to watch you, pursue your dreams and reach such a high level that impacts multiple lives, yet maintaining your humbleness and your humility and your willingness to still be that team player. You do a great job as a husband and a father, providing atmosphere for your boys to be confident and successful. And then just knowing who your mom and your dad and your siblings are as people, I wouldn't expect it to be any other way. You come from a tremendous fabric of very kind-hearted, genuine individuals. And it's just refreshing to see that you maintain that and haven't lost that foundation of what you sprung from. And, I just wish you continued success, a lot of good days in front of you. And hopefully you'll get a lot of time to enjoy the fruits of what you've worked so hard to build.
I appreciate that sentiment. I mean, that really is a highest compliment. I mean, coming from you as a teammate and that, because, I always looked up to your class, to you, to Dwayne, to Mark. You guys were, the guys that as a sophomore, junior, I kind of, modeled my own, play after and, tried to be like you guys. So, I can't thank you enough for that compliment.
Not a problem, man. You're one of my guys.